We've reached the final hour, the post trip on Nemo Nation. Take it away, Phone Master Dre.
That I can do in this final hour of good old Nemo Nation. Jimmy, Mac, Dave, Nemo, good morning yet again.
Good morning, Phone Master Dre. And Dave, in the last half hour, the phone lines are going to open up. We hope you guys will give us a call at 615-292-6366.
615-292-NEMO, live from Fastport Studios.
And by the way, we're also going to talk about Dave's upcoming appearance on Mike Grove's podcast. We're also going to talk about the next episode of Nemo's Night Beat. All of that stuff is yet to unpack, a lot of groovy stuff. Frankenstein, from what I understand, is coming, is he not? Yeah, Dave's got a Frankenstein show coming your way, which, by the way, our next guest is going to absolutely love. Loves all this kind of stuff, by the way. Lindsey Bryan, would you care to do the honors and introduce her?
Lindsey Bryan is our dear friend from St. Christopher. She is the health and wellness manager. And she also found her passion in health coaching while on her own health journey. And she knows everything from the inside out, from the here and the there. And Lindsey, it's always great to have you. It's been a long time, though. Good morning and welcome back.
Mad scientist.
It has been a while. Thank you so much for having us again.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We always include St. Christopher in everything we do around here, that's for sure. You guys have something very cool. We are gearing up for American Diabetes Month next month. We're going to talk about that, of course. And there's a new program that you are introducing to drivers. You're going to give us all of the information, everything the drivers need to know. So pay attention to the details here, because it's another great program to help drivers handle especially type 2 diabetes. But this morning, we're going to talk about a third type of diabetes. And Lindsey, I thought maybe before we got started on the nuts and bolts of what St. Christopher is doing with the new program, we might just talk about what diabetes is, because we hear this all the time. We think we know what it is, and then we say, well, there are two types of diabetes. Yeah, well, no, there are three types. And then there's a fourth issue that we're going to actually talk about today, and that is pre-diabetes, and that is nipping it in the bud, catching it before it gets out and gets out of control. So a very important topic here this morning. So, Lindsey, if you don't mind, for those who know and for those who don't, what is type 1 diabetes? So we can kind of get our game players all lined up here. Type 1 diabetes.
Yeah, so type 1 diabetes is actually an autoimmune disease, and it's where the immune system starts attacking cells that produce insulin. And so for that reason, it's a little bit more tricky to manage. We can't always catch it early with the lifestyle changes that we're about to talk about here in a few minutes.
Yes.
Yeah, and by the way, that's something that a lot of people, like I said, that has nothing to do with behavior a lot of the time. That is just simply not ever. I mean, that is just something that people start with, and that's something that has to be managed in a very, very different way than the rest of the stuff we're talking about. Correct? I just want to make sure I'm totally clear on this.
That's exactly right. You are exactly right about that. Sometimes it can be genetic. We have also seen a recent uptick in young children, which we think is like a post-viral complication from COVID, believe it or not. So it's definitely not a series of habits, essentially, that leads to it. It is just truly the immune system getting a little defunct, if you will.
I wanted to follow up with one more thing, and it's kind of an interesting one, too. I don't know if you know this, but in 1966, Notre Dame actually had a two-quarterback system because the guy who should have started was born with diabetes and couldn't always be on the field. The New Orleans Saints had a starting quarterback, Wade Wilson, who was a sufferer from birth of diabetes. And a lot of people, and this is a genuine question, a lot of people who successfully live long and productive lives with type 1 diabetes often can be great examples to anyone with diabetes for how you have to manage your life in regards to discipline and how you approach living your life. Many of them who live long lives, like Wade Wilson, because of his athletic prowess and all that stuff, are people who have really committed to a healthy lifestyle. Do they provide any insight for those who have kind of walk their way into diabetes. Am I making sense?
Yes, and you're right. You're on the right track there. They very much can be managed through changes in lifestyle, meaning if we are mindful about what we're eating, particularly the amount of carbs that is going into each meal, if we are intentional about our activity, and even sometimes getting a little bit meticulous about when we're exercising, not just exercise in general, but can we do a little bit of a walk, say 15 minutes before we eat? If we can get a little bit meticulous with things, we stand the best chance of managing it. And here's just another little fun fact when we talk about type 2 diabetes in a moment. We actually are now recognizing a diagnostic code of type 2 diabetes in remission, which means that we're recognizing now that it can be reversed if we do all the things right, which is a very cool thing to think about.
It really is. And by the way, as somebody who has a father who has seen a lot of his diabetes diagnosis change in the process of losing 60 pounds, even at a late age, it's never too late to start this stuff, is it?
That's exactly right. It's never too late. Today is the best day. If not yesterday, then we start today, right? And you're right. It's never too late.
My father died at 30 years old when I was like 5 years old. He had type 1 diabetes, but at that time, back in the late 40s, early 50s, it was called juvenile. It was actually called juvenile diabetes. If you said, well, what do you have? I have juvenile diabetes. So that is the one where you need to take insulin shots themselves. Type 2 diabetes is all over television. There are so many medications for it now. There's so much talk about it in terms of how big it is, in terms of how many people have it and how it is growing.
It's the United States. The problem is we could actually become the United States of diabetes.
Yeah.
There's a dangerous place we are approaching because, what is it, 1 in 3 adults right now have pre-diabetes? It's extraordinary, right?
Yes, that's exactly right. 1 in 3. And what's even a little bit scarier than that is that 8 in 10 don't even know that they are pre-diabetic. So it is a very silent epidemic that's creeping in, and many people don't know because there are oftentimes not early warning signs until that disease has progressed over a period of time.
So let's talk about what the second type of diabetes is. You've done a masterful job, I think, at kind of laying out what used to be called juvenile diabetes type 1. Can you kind of lay out the diabetes that so many Americans are at risk from right now?
Yeah, so type 2 diabetes is categorized as a metabolic disorder. So it's functioning very differently. And what can make it a little bit complicated is that there can be multiple dysfunctions within the body. It could be that the body isn't able to make enough insulin. I describe it as our endocrine system gets a little bit lazy. It tends to be a very lazy system in our body. So sometimes it just says, nah, we're done with this. We don't want to keep having it work so hard. But sometimes it's actually a dysfunction of our body being able to use the insulin that is being produced. So it can be multiple things that are happening, but ultimately they end up affecting the body the same. And that is that blood sugar continues to rise, potentially to a very dangerous level where we're creating all sorts of other diseases within the body.
And when blood sugar rises too like that, if I'm not mistaken, Lindsey, you're causing it. It's not. If it's a temporary rise, you can bring it down. You can keep it down, but it does some damage, and lasting damage.
It does.
Each time
it absolutely does.
High. Yeah.
It is creating inflammation all over the body, and probably the most common long-term issue ends up being with our kidneys. Our kidneys have to work really hard to try to get that excess sugar out of our system. And it can do that occasionally when it needs to, right? If we enjoy a treat and we have not had high blood sugar previously, it can do that. It's designed to do that. And that's why we've got 2 of them, right? We've got 2 kidneys. However, when we are repeatedly putting it through that battery of having to try to eliminate all this excess sugar, it puts a lot of strain on them. And so many times, along with type 2 diabetes comes chronic kidney disease, which is also a silent killer.
It's interesting, too, because diabetes feels like so much of what cascading bad health outcomes for Americans, if in fact we would look at it as kind of a domino. Diabetes, or at least pre-diabetes. Pre-diabetes is the finger right in front of the first domino, and diabetes is actually when the finger touches that domino, then we're off to the races. And the longer those dominoes fall, the harder it gets to stop what's going to happen next. Is that fair?
I think that's a fair assessment. You're absolutely right, because we talk about the kidneys, but also it can be our eyes and our circulation and our nerves and so many other things. And on the beneficiary side of our organization, we oftentimes see really tragic amputations that didn't have to happen.
Oh, my God. I'm going to say this really quickly, guys. I had a friend of mine, rode her bike everywhere, was in very, very nice shape. She had a love of sugar that went beyond all human reason. It was an addiction, and she wouldn't stop eating sugar like crazy. This is a woman in shape, rode her bike everywhere, had a stroke, recovered from the stroke, all the mental faculties, woke up missing 2 toes.
Wow.
And had to change the way she rode her beloved bike from that point on because of the balance issues that go into that. And this was somebody who actually was bike riding every day. There are a lot of threats that can kind of cause this. And because of that in mind, and because of what the St. Christopher Fund does, we've gone for a long walk here. I want to make sure we get that final type of diabetes, Dave. Did we cover that one?
Well, there's a third diabetes, and John Hopkins tells us that it doesn't have a number. So we have 1 and 2. And then we have gestational diabetes. It basically is something that happens during pregnancy. It's kind of a mystery. It's not a lack of insulin, but other hormones that are produced during pregnancy make the insulin less effective, and it generally goes away after the baby is delivered.
Is that how you understand it, since Dave unpacked it?
That's perfect. That's perfect. The only thing I would add to that is that it can put somebody at higher risk for developing type 2 diabetes.
Okay.
So even though it functions very differently and it has to do with hormones and it's just kind of one of these unique pregnancy challenges, it does set people up for higher risk for type 2 diabetes later on.
Now, when we talk about age, and of course, one of the things that we've been promoting and we're going to be taking part of course, again this year is Project 61 Day Challenge, which begins on November 1st, which also begins National Diabetes Month. Coincidence? Maybe, maybe not. But at any rate, one of the things we take a look at is age. And when you see the number, if you're age 45 or over, you need to do this and this and this. In case of prediabetes, if you are under 45, you should start getting tested for prediabetes because children are getting it now.
Yes, we're seeing it younger and younger. And it, like I said, it truly is a very silent epidemic that is running wild right now. And so generally, if we are going in for an annual physical, our doctor is going to run some lab work, which is going to give us a pretty good idea of what that blood sugar looks like. But we know not everybody's making it in for annual physicals. And so this is one that's actually really important because it can slip in very silently without any symptoms early on. And then suddenly something happens and, hey, surprise, we may have full-blown diabetes by that point. So we want to try to catch it early. But John Hopkins does recommend if there are any kind of risk factors. So if we have a BMI over 25, if there's a family history of diabetes, if we are sedentary, and so unfortunately many of our truck drivers fall into this category just by nature of the profession, but also even taking certain medications, so like diuretics and steroids, anybody falling into that category should also be getting checked early and often.
Let's talk a little bit about you before we actually get to HabitNu, because we have a little bit of time here. Let's talk about you for a second here. You actually practice what you preach, because Dave and I actually are both, and Phone Master Dre, we're all people who actually put our money where our mouth is. Dave is an avid gym goer, really watches his salt, really watches his sugar. Dre has a lot of great diet tips for people out there, maintains his shape, and somehow, some way, I managed to put in anywhere from 10 to 14,000 steps a day. You actually have your own journey, so when you speak to people about this, you actually speak from a place of experience. I want to establish your bona fides here for our friends as well, too, so they know they're talking to somebody who has created solutions for themselves. Tell us a bit about yourself, Lindsey.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I started having some kind of unique autoimmune problems from a very young age. I was diagnosed with Kawasaki's disease when I was 4, and that's an autoimmune disorder that attacks your blood vessels and also your heart if it's not caught early enough. And so, unfortunately, as autoimmune disorders tend to go, they travel in groups. So when you end up with one, oftentimes you end up with another one along the way. And I've actually picked up several over the years. And so I've also got Sjogren's, which is very similar to
Oh,
lupus.
that's the worst. That
Um,
is the worst. I'm so sorry. I'm glad you're managing that because it can be really painful. Oh, good for
it
you.
absolutely can. But you know what? The thing is that I'm practicing what I preach. There was a point when it was not well managed. This was, in my early teens, when of course I thought I was invincible and I could eat anything and do anything. And I learned very quickly that no, you actually have to take care of your body because this is the only one that you get long term. And so through healthy eating and consistent exercise and managing stress and getting enough sleep and all the things that we talk about in all of our groups, I actually live a very productive, successful, good quality of life now. And so it does require some immune suppressants along with that. You guys will hear me preaching vaccinations for those of us who are high risk and things like that, but it is doable.
And by the way, you don't have to give up your love of baking, provided you also adopt a love of gardening and hiking as well too. Which, by the way, puts you in really
Yeah.
good stead with our family because, man, the gardeners on the Dave side of the family and the hikers on my side of the family, we love you. You can do either thing for fun with us. And by the way, Dre and I were talking about this. Gardening done properly is an incredible form of exercise, isn't it?
It is very much so. My garden is actually terraced on a very steep hill. And so I jokingly say I get my share of exercise just in going up and down that hill and dragging stuff out there, bags of dirt and whatnot. But it's a great source of movement. And I really believe with activity, any kind of exercise that we're doing intentionally, there has to be 2 rules to go along with it. One, it has to be enjoyable. And 2, it has to be sustainable. So if our goal is to go run a marathon every day, well, is that sustainable long term? Probably not, even if we
Yeah.
really love running,
I mean,
right?
if you did it every day for the rest of your life, you could do it every day for the rest of your life because the rest of your life wouldn't be very long. I mean, it's that simple.
Right, probably not. So we've got to check those 2 boxes: make it enjoyable, make it sustainable. And for me, gardening is one of those things where I could do it year round, even. Here in the Knoxville area, we have that good weather, so we've got a longer gardening season. And also, I keep a greenhouse going, so I can go all the way through the winter time and keep that activity going.
Okay, so I'm going to set this up really quickly, and then you and Dave are going to probably dive in the deep end. Truckersfund.org, you have a brand new program. A new program. You want to tell us about that?
Absolutely. I'm really excited about this program. We have partnered up with an organization called HabitNu. And HabitNu is a CDC-recognized diabetes prevention program provider. And that is all just fancy words to say they provide an umbrella program that allows small organizations like ours to better provide the diabetes prevention program to participants. So they have an incredible app that includes everything all together. They've got all sorts of tools, but they have even gone a step further for us and built in some additional things that are tailored specifically to truck drivers. They have got exercises that can be done in the truck. They have got recipes that can be made on the truck. They've got all sorts of really cool things. They've also turned some of our education modules into podcasts to make them more accessible for drivers. So it's a really cool program for that reason, but also we are getting even more tailored to over-the-road drivers.
That is remarkable that they are doing that. Do you know why HabitNu would, did you guys have a lot to do with the trucker aspect of this?
We did. We started conversations probably about a year ago. This has been building for some time. Us working on getting this done right is what I say.
Mm-hmm.
I love the diabetes prevention program, specifically the T2 curriculum is what I like to use. But I will say some of those education modules are very frustrating because they will say things like, walk around your office when you have a chance. And, when you go to your kids' sporting events, do some laps around the field. Well, over-the-road truck drivers are not able to get up and walk around the office. And many times they're missing those day-to-day things at home where they might be able to get activity, right? That'd be easy if they could do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're frustrating to me. They're frustrating to the drivers, understandably. And so we needed something that specifically was there for them. And of course, in all of our classes, we try to tailor things to this population anyway. But it has just been an incredible support system to have HabitNu behind us. And when I say, hey, this isn't going to work for this population, they say, okay, well, what do we need to do? How do we make it work? And that's been a great support system. So it's tailored specifically to them. It's also free specifically for them because we want to make sure that we are helping to support them in preventing diabetes long term, and we want to make it as easy as possible to do that.
Lindsey, by the way, my friend who, after she lost her two toes, did turn her life around really successfully, got into a couple of programs like this. Do you know what she says what the definition of free is? Shut the hell up and do the damn thing. Somebody's giving you an opportunity to save your life and not charging you for it. That's what free means, right?
That is exactly what we're aiming for here, except I want them to speak up. At the end of all my classes, I say comments, questions, points of rebuttal. I will take it all on because we're all here to learn. And so I want it to be just a great resource for them and a place where they can have fun and connect with other drivers too while they're learning. We don't want it to be bland, boring. We're not aiming for that.
If you're just joining us, Lindsey Bryan is with us. She is the St. Christopher Fund Health and Wellness Manager. If you didn't hear the last 20 minutes or so, then catch it when Tara puts it up
on the Tube Review and everywhere you get your podcast.
Because you'll want to hear that information. But this is where we're really going to get into specifics for the drivers out there, because HabitNu is not a free program. It's free for you if you qualify. So tell us what the eligibility is. And wow, this is better than awesome, because free programs are cool. This is not a free program that becomes free for some of our listeners out there.
Fire away.
Yes, that's exactly it. So it is free for Class A over-the-road truck drivers, which is true for all of our programs. The other criteria that they have to be able to meet, and this is real particular, they have to have a BMI of 25 or above, which means they would be falling into the overweight category or above. And so that's essentially building up our potential risk factors for type 2 diabetes. The other thing is that we have to have some lab work that indicates they are already pre-diabetic. So that could be a fasting glucose between 100 and 125, or we could also accept an A1C between 5.7 and 6.4. So I know those are real specific, but we're looking for BMI of 25 or above, already considered pre-diabetic, and Class A over-the-road truck driver.
Really quickly, though, this is what's upsetting, by the way. You might not think you're qualified, guys. You might be. Because BMI, by the way, I'm not the craziest about the number, but it is. I think it's actually the best number to use, because it actually gives a lot of people an opportunity to be part of this study. Because in many ways, like I said, they're people who are in the shape of their lives, who have high BMIs, but they have massive muscle mass on them. That's a different thing entirely. This is. I will not be surprised if a lot of people don't qualify for this. A lot of the over-road drivers. I wish they wouldn't, but I have a feeling they will. Is that fair?
That is fair. And based on what we know about those who have not yet been diagnosed, there's probably a lot more out there that qualify than we even realize. And they probably don't realize either. So it's good to get that lab work checked for that reason. But ultimately, we want to catch it here when we are in the pre-diabetic phase, because it's much easier to reverse and prevent type 2 diabetes if we're catching it early, when there's already some early signs, but we're not full-blown type 2 diabetes.
Okay, now I know how people are because I am one of them. So when you can kind of fudge that thing like Jim just did on the BMI, which is perfectly legitimate,
Yeah.
right? But you can't fudge the A1C numbers or your fasting glucose numbers. So if you're a big muscular guy and you're saying, "Oh, my BMI, that's off the chart, it's fine," yeah, it might be, but the A1C is not going to pull any punches.
Yeah,
right?
and if you're in good, if you don't qualify for it, then you're probably doing some stuff right too. I mean, that's the other thing too. If you don't qualify on the A1C stuff, you might actually take a close look at what you're doing because you may be onto something.
Mm-hmm.
Is that fair?
Exactly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I would say that there are courses for anybody. So we've got classes that cover other criteria. So let's just say somebody is like, well, I'm already diabetic, so what now? No worries. We have a class for that. Well, what if I'm not pre-diabetic? That's okay. We have a class for that too. So even if you don't qualify for this specific program, there are still other options available.
Lindsey, we can't thank you enough for spending so much time with us. And thank you for the information about your own personal story. It's so appreciated. And like I said, we're big fans of people practicing what they preach over here. Yeah. And, we're all examples of that. Enjoy the wonderful fall weather you guys are getting right now. We've gotten a couple of reports from Tennessee. It sounds like stuff is gorgeosity up there. Is that fair?
It absolutely is. It is beautiful here, and it's a great day to get out gardening. I appreciate you guys having us on so much. It always helps to help get the word out about our new programs.
Truckersfund.org. Lindsey Bryan has joined us of the St. Christopher Fund. She's the Health and Wellness Manager. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsey.